agree. And I would venture to say, I think, so I say this often, like for my earlier part of my life that we all have, well, let me just make the point. It's sometimes people get into this view of like, we can avoid the negatives. Maybe we get lucky, maybe we control some of it ourselves, but we can have a stretch in life where things just go pretty well. And like we don't have that controversy, we don't have those struggles. I actually don't think that's true though. I think that's an illusion. I think sometimes we convince ourselves that because we think it's better. But I think there's different extremes, right? But there's constantly bad things happening, whether it be in the world or to our family, our friends, or us individually. And people want to avoid that. People don't want to think about that. But the more you do embrace it, exactly to what you're saying, it allows you for the benefits that you get out of it.
Well, there's constantly things that are outside of our control. You
Yeah.
can't control everything. You can because some people think, like when there's been lots of trauma happened, when you then can like control and have your safe reality, it's better. You're working with what you know, but there's always things that will happen that are completely out of your control. That's just, which is the joy of life as well as the challenge.
Counterintuitive though, right? It seems like the joy of life should be
Mm,
just focus on the positives. And I just want that. And I just want to see that. And it's not that the positives aren't good. It's just that accepting the reality that those negatives are there and that there's benefits to be pulled out of those negatives too. But it just seems so counterintuitive. It seems like we should just want to be happy and just feel, and we should, like, we do want to be happy. It's such a convoluted thing. It's such a weird, twisted way we go to get there. But yeah, yeah,
but you have to have opposites. You can't just have one, and that's
yeah,
important to
yeah.
remember.
What's this been like for you, Harriet? So you touched on it a little bit. I know a little bit of your story from what I read, but this journey, I guess, to get to where consistency is the value. Was that always the value, firstly, or is that something that over time you've realized the importance of that?
I think it's always been the value. I think I've always been very true to myself, and like too much to my detriment. Like, so I was in a bad car crash at the end of university that I'll talk about a little bit after this. But
Mm,
first, when I was thinking back to my childhood, like school was very hard for me purely because for some reason I was quite confident. I knew what I wanted. I knew what felt bad and what felt good, and I didn't conform to all the cool kids, and they
mm,
just bullied the hell out of me for the whole of
mm.
my primary school. All of school, I really struggled because I was never very good at adapting to the cool thing or
You were
like
consistent,
not. I was sticking true to myself, yeah, and I was miserable a lot of the time. I'd come home
huh?
crying and things, but I'm still relieved that I was that person. But it didn't. But people don't like, especially because I was quite confidently consistent. People don't like that. People are quite intimidated, like especially kids that have trouble. So as I've got older now, it's been a lot more freeing, and people really admire and respect how I am, and wish they could just speak their mind like I do, and wish they could just be true to themselves and not let themselves down. And
Mm.
I like to set an example.
Can I ask
Be
on that, Harriet? As from just going back, focusing on the childhood. So I have a son who's 8 years old. So I think about this a lot. And selfishly, I'm curious your take on this. Um, how do you think about teaching kids or guiding kids in that vein? Because I think many people would say it's about being true to yourself and being authentic and having that confidence. But as you're articulating in the real world, that can be really messy and really hard. Do you feel like the approach you took is the right one? You kind of have to go through the fire a little bit and it's going to be tough. Or is there things you would change of how you approached it?
um I feel like it was the right one, but but my best friend who was in the accident who got killed, we grew up from the age of 5 to 21.
Mm,
She was also bullied, also quite true to herself, but was better at adapting and just letting people you don't always just letting them get their way and being like, oh, it doesn't matter, don't really care. And
mm,
I feel like she had a slightly easier way. Like I could have. It didn't, but I listened to my gut. My gut didn't say, "Oh, let them do whatever they want and don't say anything." Like I just I wouldn't go along with things I didn't agree with. And
mm.
I don't know. I don't really spend much of my life being like, oh, would it have been better if this felt that way? Because I like working with however way it was.
Mm.
In terms of like, I don't know, but kids are hard, isn't it? It's like, I don't know. I spent a lot of time working on myself being okay, but that then meant that I struggled with crowds of people and groups of people because they're not very nice. They're not like, people will say people will share something personal, and a lot of time it gets ignored. People laugh over it, and just like I like one-on-one conversations. So like as a child, it's particularly hard in terms of trying to fit in with the group or
Mm,
try and do your own thing. Either one will hurt you.
mm,
You just unfortunately have to have the struggles, and it's just stay true to yourself, or trust your gut, or just but that doesn't make the pain any easier to deal with when
mhm,
everything's really raw and everything's like you're feeling all these things for the first time. Like your first love's the most extreme feeling that was just, so I'm so glad that I'm not in that feeling. It was just everything feels so powerful.
mm, mm. Yeah, I totally, that totally resonates with me, and I think you're right. And as a kid to try and think back to it, and I've struggled. I think we've all had our struggles at times, different degrees, but yeah, it's such a tough thing. I mean, I often think confidence is the answer. The confidence to just feel like I know who I am, I know what I'm going to be, and maybe that's the friend you're speaking of. Maybe that's a little bit of the magic sauce in that, is even the confidence to know that even if this person doesn't get it, or they're saying something mean, like it doesn't really impact me. I know who I am. I know that's fine. And those
Yeah.
words all sound great, but to actually embody that when the emotions are there and it's as raw as it feels, and you feel like in your gut, this isn't, that's such a hard thing to do.